So what would you say to a brand owner then? Because how then are they supposed to think about their marketing if there's just so many touch points?
First of all, what I see with most of the brand owners, they shy away from analytics because sometimes they have like they're burned from analytics solutions and they didn't learn how to analyze it properly because most of the people they're focusing on supply chain, which is needed and stuff like that, building the online shop, conversion rate optimization in the online shop, and then a little bit media buying. Okay, look at your ROAS, that's it. But the problem with this is there is so much more to analytics than you can basically expect. Yeah. And as Sun Tzu said, the war is basically won before it even started. So before you try to optimize anything in execution, or execute on what you're trying to do, sit down and think a little bit. Like try to make yourself a picture of the customer. What is the customer really trying to do? Like this is super important because you will miss out certain breadcrumbs. They're leaving, for example, in an attribution solution, we are giving like a timeline of the customer journey where you can see exactly, even if they just visited the site, didn't leave a lead, didn't leave a purchase, didn't do an add to cart, they just popped up on the site and left. We can reconstruct that customer back and you can see, oh, there's meta ads in the beginning for like 2 or 3 times where the people just come on the site and leave again. Oh, and in the end, Google is converting it. Yes, because Google also got fed the data, for example, and now they're converting over Google because probably they're searching, yeah, and then Google is like the place to search for people, and then they see your Google ad, and then they convert over to Google ad, and he's like, okay, then I can turn off Meta because it's wasted money. Yeah, and like 3-4 weeks later, you're like, oh, my Google ads are not converting anymore. Yeah, because you didn't make these first touch points. You're missing that. And as a brand owner, I would recommend for everybody to sit down just a little bit, yeah, and analyze stuff, like get to the ground of things. And it does not take like hours and hours, and people have this school-like thought you have to analyze a lot of stuff and reports. It's all bullshit. Sit down, look at the data, have the data structured, and then, oh, okay, I see this and this, and then act up on it.
Okay.
Because, like I said, the war is won before it started.
Okay. But how specifically should you kind of sit down and look at that data? Like, what is the strategy there?
It depends what kind of solutions you're using. First of all, you have to make sure that your data you're looking at is the right data. Because the only thing that is worse than have no tracking and no correct attribution is basically having the wrong attribution and the wrong data in front of you. And that's why, for example, we are at OneTrack. What we are trying to do is like we're giving the people all the necessary tools to investigate. People can go in and just check for themselves if we attributed the lead right. You can see where they're coming from. You can see what they're clicking on. You can see the whole customer journey broken down to the most narrow point what you can do. And we do this for every customer, for every page view, for every add to cart, for every initiate checkout, every purchase, everything. So the people do not have to trust us. So they can go inside, check for themselves, is what the software is telling me right, for example. It's a little bit more complicated when you go for like the classic terms like Excel sheets, UTM and stuff like that. And you cannot believe usually the ad platforms too much. Yeah, it's depending a little bit on how they're working with data. Like Google, for example, is usually working a little bit better with data than Meta does. But in general, usually you have an over or under attribution in the platform. So the data you're looking at is super skewed. And if it's skewed, you have to be very wary of which decisions you make in the end. And that's the reason you need the right tools to analyze it. You need, first of all, you need to see, okay, is the basis correct? Did I have the same amount of orders? Yes. Okay. Where did they come from? Google, Meta. Okay. Which campaigns? Okay, this and this. Are there big differences between, for example, the numbers Meta is showing me? Are they too high, too low? To compare, for example, what I see, for example, in OneTrack or stuff like that? Okay. Why is OneTrack showing only like 20% of what Meta is showing me? Because people tend then, oh, it's wrong. No, then analyze, take a look, and then be open-minded. That's the most important stuff, that your ideas of your customer's journey could be wrong. Because people have this predefined picture of their own customer journey, how the customer is buying from them. But what we find out in at least 50% of the cases, it's not true. That's not how the customer buys in the end. And when you fix that, and put your breadcrumbs on the right stages in the customer journey. For example, people sometimes look at a blog in between. And usually there's like 3-4 blog articles which outperform all the other 100 blog articles you have. Then, okay, make more of these so they have a better like understanding of the topic. After that is fixed, okay, They come in the first, before they read a blog, they come from TikTok. Okay. Oh, they come from TikTok Reels. Okay, interesting. So let's produce more short form content, like in form from video clips and stuff, to get cold audience in. Then warm them up with the blog articles. And then as soon as when they went on the site, go and target him with meta ads and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know? And this is the way. And people just try to force, oh, we have paid. But there is so much more you can see, and even more that it's missed by the usually e-com owners.
Okay. So it's kind of zoom out, look at the journey that seems to convert the best, and then do more of each stage in that.
Yes.
That full stack.
Like, first of all, get your data right. Yeah. Make sure it's right, and then analyze on the data. Mm-hmm. And there's different tools you can do this with. We are one of them. Yeah. And you just like filter, look at it, look at certain products. You can structure, move stuff. There's like an organic process. We are, for example, teaching that in our academy, which is basically for free for every customer of us. So they can just go in, see what are winning strategies, how is it working, what did they do in the past. And we have case studies in there from people who scaled like from 100K to 1,000,000 ad spend per month and stuff like this. So that the people just can see what they can take as value, mm-hmm. and then just implement with the software with a few clicks.
Okay. What would you say to kind of business owners that aren't at the spend level or at the level to kind of work with one track, but they're interested in, you know, mm-hmm. what you're saying, they think you're correct? Is there anything they can do kind of at the stage before?
Yeah, it's very important, first of all, if they have this thought that they want to analyze, it's first of all a right intention. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to appreciate that. It's like amazing that they want to do it, because usually people shy away from that. The thing what they can do is like maybe like work first of all with the standard tracking methods, integrate a conversion API, yeah, using the basics which are there, which are available for everybody, easy to use, and then focus on the basics of the business first. Like, do not lose yourself too much, because you not have too much data with like 20K, 10K of ad spend. You do not have like crazy amount of data, crazy amount of orders, but get yourself to a stable level of 20, 30K, for example, then fix the business, get your conversion rates optimized, get everything you need, like customer proof, like testimonials, videos and stuff like that on the page. There's other people who know much more about conversion rate optimization than me, for example. Like, get all the basics right. Mm-hmm. And if you have that, then start putting more ad spend. Okay. Like, do not overdo it, like try to force ad spend. Yep. Because if you pour water in a bucket with holes in it, it's not like getting better or higher level of water in the bucket. You have to first plug the holes, then fill the water, and then think about the other bucket or truck to bring more water. Mm-hmm. You know.
Okay. I also just want to go back to something you said before about, you know, let's take two platforms. Meta is top of funnel. Google is converting at mm-hmm. bottom of funnel. People or brand owners sometimes don't see that, and they'll just turn off the top of funnel because they think it's not converting. What would you say to people like that don't understand kind of what they're doing?
Get help. 100%. Yeah. There's so much good free stuff online. You don't have to buy this crazy expensive eCom coaching or stuff like that. Yeah. There's good ones out there which are worth the money 100%. But like, you do not need to pay another person basically crazy coaching amounts. It's usually better spent in ad spend and try and test stuff with your own mind and your own time. The problem is most of them in the beginning, if they're not like super focused on business, they're kind of lazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're lazy in business, it usually never works out properly for you. So what I would recommend is like, for them, like, if you're really serious about making money and know that your online shop, your product is right, your market fit is right, you know, you have your shop in place, you have it a little bit optimized and stuff like that, then get a person, like maybe pay them for like a one-on-one, mm-hmm. and offer them sometimes like just invite them to dinner and just ask them the questions you want to ask, yeah, and help them and get introduced to that. For example, we have people who like scale crazily with OneTrack, and they're very happy to share their experiences. So what we do is like, if somebody like in our customer success team finds out that a customer has a certain problem or like is at a certain point and cannot scale anymore, what we do, we just hook him up with people who were at this point before, yep. And then just like, hey, can you make half an hour, 45 minutes, just like a call with them, and just like they talk to each other. And usually it's super valuable because like the people, we know the numbers, so they're not they cannot bullshit us.
Yep.
So we know exactly, okay, this is a marketer who's able to perform. This is like not working, what the other guy says. So we usually give the top guys who were at this point before, make a consulting session with the client. This is usually for free. They just do it like, they just want to do it, you know. They give back because they have been they have been helped before. And then they do the call. And sometimes, not all the times, like they say, oh, we need more calls and stuff like that. Are you open to like give us a coaching for X amount of money, which is usually way cheaper than any other online coaching? Yeah. And then they just sit down, analyze, and it's much more individual. And they spend the time, give back. There's a little bit of like exchange in business, and this is super good.
Okay. And how do you think about top of funnel versus bottom of funnel? Maybe allocation or spend?
It's very hard to say, depending crazily on product. It's also depending crazily on the market which you try to target. There are certain people you can figure out like where you basically need no ad spend top of funnel, but need to retarget a lot. Yeah. Then there's stuff which is not working organically at all. So you have to basically like do all the paid traffic and then convert with emails in the back end. And this is something you have to find out. It's like super product specific in my opinion.
Product dependent based on kind of price point, demographic and factors like that.
Price point, demographics, like also geolocations, time zones. It depends. You cannot make a general claim about that.
Okay. And how do you think from an advertising perspective about kind of branding versus direct response?
Usually direct response is usually in the beginning good to figure out if your product is working and if you have like a functioning business. And branding is coming at a certain point, usually between, my opinion, 50 to 100K ad spend.
Monthly.
Like monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should put it like maybe get another brand off the ground or like brand the product yourself and stuff like that. If it makes sense, you know, if it's like a product you can run for longer, if you can build a product ecosystem around, then I would spend the money. Specifically, sometimes it's good to get just your market name out in a certain space. For example, if you have like a highly competitive market and it's hard to go inside, it's very good that you make something different and brand yourself different first, and then retarget at people who, for example, just watched your branding ads and stuff like this. The stuff what we are doing is like we can usually not generalize stuff because we're in the analyzing business, you know, we are analytical. And I'm really shying away of analyzing stuff because when you look at the data in most of the cases, it's crazy different than what you think.
Yeah.
And this is this thing like branding versus exactly conversion based. You will always need conversion based ads for sure, but in certain markets it makes more sense to have branding based ads.
Okay. And as you scale, you need kind of more, or you shift focus more towards the branding side as well, but you should always keep the direct response stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. You cannot make money with branded campaigns. Like this is usually not working unless you have a crazy viral product. We have people who sell over TikTok shops live like crazy.
Yeah.
Because everybody's shitting on TikTok shop. I see the revenues, they are like from another world.
Yeah.
But they're doing it like in a super organic way, super smart, and they do it organically. Also possible. Yeah. It's just a different way of doing
strategy.
stuff. Yeah. And then they have paid ads in the back end, you know. And like I said, depending on the product, if you have a good organically like scaling product, okay, scale organically. Do not shy back also from influencers and stuff. They usually do a good job if you identify them right. And there's certain ways to scale.
Okay. Taking the kind of direct response angle and, you know, if a brand wants to start off and kind of focus on that, what type of ads or content works super well? So I'm assuming kind of like us versus them type stuff to capture demand that's already in market, or what would you say there?
Everything which gives an emotional response, basically.
Okay.
The us versus them is like a classic emotional response because you make an instant comparison. You have to be a little bit careful because it's not like the ad platforms do not like to see it too much. Then, for example, like try to get like an emotional response out of the product buyer. For example, like a wow effect. If you have a hair product or a hair gadget, show before, after. Show a person who's using it, you know? And like in a crazy way with a good energy. So that you have this emotional element within. Because what most people in eCom forget is like, in the end, humans are usually making spontaneous decisions, and this is done by emotions. And this emotional element is usually missing. They don't try too much. They can do much more crazy ads, you know? Do something which stays in the mind, for example.
Can you just explain that a bit more? What do you mean when you say getting an emotion across?
Yes, like for example, if you sit in front of an ad and it's like, hey, buy this, for example, hair dryer, and this is so good, it costs half of the price which it cost last week. Yeah, nobody will buy it. Take the old hair dryer, smash it. Yeah, take the other one, show the person with a glowing hairstyle, because this is what every, for example, woman or man wants. Like, know your customer, and then like present it in a way and say, okay, here's also a discount if you act the next 24 minutes. Like, super different.
Okay.
Same message, same product, super different creative aspect, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like from the core message, from the content, you know, but the reframing of the message, for example, like in an emotional way, and to like hook them immediately, crazy good.
Okay. And how important is the offer in that kind of process?
Offer is usually super important in every business.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's lead generation or e-commerce, to be honest. If the product or the offer is not working, you can throw money on it and it will still not work maybe a little bit, but not on a crazy scale. So the offer, in my opinion, is a very, very underestimated leverage usually people have. And there's different offers you have to test, in my opinion. Like, offers is always a testing question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a thing like, oh, this is working, this is not working, or stuff like this. Just test it.
Yeah.
Just feel it. Sometimes if you have a lot of experience, you can already tell this will probably work, this will probably not work, and stuff like that. But in the end, test.
Okay. And are you kind of hooking or leading with the offer, or are you leading with the kind of emotion?
Usually emotion, because also what the offer creates in the end, if the offer is crazy good, it like creates, for example, a fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hooking them. So I would say it's always the emotion, and of course the price point has to fit like target audience, and all the basic frameworks have to fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they are fitting, they are buying.
Okay. So kind of emotion first, offer on the back end once someone's hooked in. We know how hard it is to scale in eCom. That's why we're on a mission to make it easy. So check out some of our other videos just like this one, and subscribe so you don't miss your next big growth opportunity.